Ben. Wow, it's great to see so many people. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Paul Gubbins. I'm the VP of Strategy for a global CTV ad server called Publica. We work with streaming publishers and smart TV manufacturers to help them create linear-like TV ad breaks so their users aren't bombarded with the same ads back to back. But enough about me. Welcome, panelists. Chris, I think we're going to do a quick round of intros, and we'll start from your end, if that's okay.
Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Chris Edwards, commercial lead at Rakuten Advertising, responsible for monetizing commercial inventory on Rakuten's media platforms.
Hi, I'm Alice Beecroft. I work at Yahoo. I'm responsible for our DSP product strategy and partnerships across our international markets.
I'm Alex Hodge. I'm head of digital ad sales and innovation at Warner Brothers Discovery. Essentially means monetizing of all digital products from the inception from product through to the trading.
Rhys McLaughlin, Director of Advanced Advertising at ITV. I'm the seventh best person in VOD in the world, according to what was the publication?
The top 50.
The top 50.
Yes.
Yeah, 7 out of 50. There you go.
That's pretty impressive, though, right? That's still cool. Right. So to kick off the discussion, this is a question that divides many rooms. The definition of CTV content. So, Rhys, I think I'm going to turn to you first because you and I have debated this at length. What is your definition of TV content in 2023?
Did we?
I think we rehearsed this one.
Yeah, no, I thought I was here to talk about VOD because I'm the seventh best at VOD in the world. And I mentioned that already. Look, we are all in on CTV at ITV, right? We are at the latest stats. We're the UK's second largest CTV streaming platform. We reinvigorated and pivoted our entire catch-up and simulcast and streaming strategy late last year and consolidated that into the ITVX proposition, which you will all be familiar with and hopefully all registered users of. It is evident that in the CTV ecosystem, ITV, Channel 4, Discovery, etc., we have a much broader canvas and a much more diverse set of colleagues, competitors, disruptors, and entrants, people looking to enter the market. I think it would be remiss of me to try and categorize it or define it, because I think that there's many levels of CTV, or evidently there's many levels of CTV consumption opportunities, which span the really highbrow, really well-produced, $1 million an hour type productions that we specialise in, Discovery specialise in, and then all the way through to the long tail to the UK's biggest CTV streaming platform proposition, which is YouTube, which is the full gamut of the YouTube proposition. So, look, it's a real bugger's muddle. And it's, like I said, it would be remiss of anybody in this room to try and categorise it and contain it in a single structure.
I think it's a fair answer. Alex?
IP delivered TV.
Oh, I like it. So, effectively, any TV content the viewer decides to watch via their big screen television.
Yeah, I think the danger is we are trying to define CTV as an industry. As a user, you don't define it as CTV, you define it as TV. Yeah. Content within that environment is whatever you choose it to be, whether it is YouTube, whether it is ITVX, whether it's Discovery Plus, whether it's TikTok. Yeah. So my view is ultimately, if it is delivered via an internet cable to your main TV in your house, that is CTV. I mean, I personally am not a massive fan of the word or the acronym CTV at all. I think we tend to lean more towards streaming as a business, and partly we would look at it as TV being the device. Yeah, okay. I think that's a great answer. Thanks. Alice, any interpretations of that question?
I was actually really looking forward to everyone else's answers. I mean, was it 3-4 days we were debating this on WhatsApp as to what the definition of CTV was? And I don't think we actually came to an answer. I think there is the difference between what is CTV and what is CTV content. Yeah. I mean, and I completely concur with what Alex was saying. CTV is a device type. Content for me, though, I would definitely probably steer more towards professionally created content versus your sort of potential UGC dispersed across YouTube. But I do think that if you're talking about CTV content, it definitely is agnostic of device. Yes. So whether or not you're watching that content across your smart TV, your mobile device, your Xbox, whatever, I think if it's professionally produced content, then the device is agnostic. But if we're talking about CTV, then we're talking about a device type. Yeah. We can now see why we debated this for 3 days with no answer.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you for that context. And Chris, Your interpretation of that question, buddy?
Not much left, is there? So I'll probably controversially say long form.
Okay.
So long form content that's digestible, there's a lean back experience.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's the only thing that has been covered.
So in theory, what we're saying, right, is that the viewer isn't deciding to watch AVOD, FAST, TVOD, BVOD. For them, if it's been streamed on the big screen television, it's fundamentally TV. But for those on the buyer side, the agencies, the DSPs, they still have to categorize it in a particular way because they have to figure out how to measure it, quantify it, optimize against those different subsets, I guess, of TV content. Great. All right. So moving on to the next question. There's been a lot of R&D over the last 12 months when it comes to making television advertising more addressable. There's been a lot written about developments in artificial intelligence, machine learning to make discoverability of TV services easier for viewers. But what have been some of the main developments in the market that have really kind of excited you over the last 12 months? Alice, maybe we'll start with you this time.
I'm going to be a bit geeky. It's actually going to be RTB 2.6.
Oh, I love that answer. Okay.
Obviously, that came out in 2022, but I do think the impact that's going to have on users' viewerships, the ability to reduce ad duplication, etc., for me is actually quite exciting. Yeah, a little bit geeky.
Nice, cool. Alex?
I'm not sure whether it's been the last 12 months, but and a bit geeky as well, is kind of SSAI, right, server-side ad insertion, and how you can make a, dare we say again, CTV ad experience TV-like.
Yeah.
I think that was the first bit that we had to nail as an industry, and I think that's probably the biggest development. But I would say actually the biggest adoption we've seen is actually not necessarily a technology advancement, but it's actually the leaning in from the industry, and it's coming so fast.
Yeah.
I think that's probably been the biggest piece.
Okay. Reece, from your side, I know at ITV you've a lot of research into making TV more accessible, right, for lots of different types of advertisers. What are some of the trends over the last 12 months that have really excited yourself and your colleagues?
When we think about this part of the ecosystem, we don't, or we endeavour rather to try and avoid like creating products that are CTV specific. And so the thing that's been most exciting in the development pathway that we've been exploring is convergence and the ability for buyers and advertisers to buy seamlessly between all formats of consumption or all consumption modes. So through Planet V, we've released a bunch of converged products where advertisers can come, set a budget, set of campaign parameters and targeting attributes, and that campaign will be optimized and allocated seamlessly between VOD catch-up services and live simulcast streaming and live linear viewing across the plethora of devices where those consumption modes are happening. And I think that's the pathway which I think the general industry is on. And I was struck by Hayley's presentation prior to this. That's evidently a strategy that Comcast are also looking to solve for.
Yeah, agreed. And it's good to hear lots of the answers around the user experience. I think it's safe to say, right, most people in this room have watched connected television and they've been bombarded with poor ad breaks. So TV shows playing, ad loads, screen goes blank, or you see the same ad back to back within the same ad break. Is frequency now, is that still an issue for those on both the buy and sell sides, or has frequency management in CTV now been fixed? Alex, I know you and I have debated this at length, right, over the last couple of months.
It's an issue,
okay.
And it's going to continue to be, and that's because of fragmentation. So it depends on kind of what, as an advertiser, you're trying to achieve in terms of frequency. I think we all get stuck into doing frequency within our environment, but realistically, from an advertiser, you should be looking at frequency for all environments and advertising how many times are your ads seen across everything. So until we come together as an industry and look at solutions that holistically look at that, yes, that's a piece. And it's also down to the data piece. We talk about this a lot, is around data taxonomies. How do we come together on data taxonomies? Because that helps with that frequency piece. How do we make sure that every environment is like for like, but at the same time keeps different sort of ad experiences? So, for example, with Discovery Plus, we're a short ad load within an SVOD environment. It's different to AVOD. Yeah, of course. So from a buyer perspective, do you always care? You should do, because the context is there. But realistically, on a report you get, do you even notice? And so I think we need to establish that piece of coming together to make that work.
Yeah, of course. And Alice, at Yahoo, you speak to lots of agencies, holding codes. Is frequency management something that is a pain point for them? Do they
Definitely.
seek guidance around that particular area when it comes to CTV?
Yeah, no, definitely. But I do think as an industry, we're kind of moving in the right direction. As Hayley mentioned in her presentation, the fact that planners and buyers are now starting to look at linear and digital as a combined way of working versus sort of operating with them in silo. But we also still have a problem in Europe. Obviously, we don't have the same capabilities as our partners, across in the US when it comes to sort of harnessing sort of household graphs, etc., to be able to better manage that frequency. But it's 100% still a problem. But I think what can help to solve for that is actually starting to look more about managing activity and budgets in an omni-channel manner rather than actually having those budgets sit siloed in lots of different teams. Yeah,
that's fair. And Chris, I mean, you and I have discussed measurement and trying to make it easier for those on the buy side, right, to figure out when they're buying into BVOD environments, when they buy into AVOD environments, fast environments, how do they holistically manage reach, frequency and attribution? Today it's still very difficult for most agencies to do that. You can get a lot of that information independently if you're working with one particular streaming service, one broadcaster, but it's very hard to do that in a joined up way. Can you shed any light on around, I guess, how those agencies are trying to better understand how they manage frequency and measurement when they buy across a multitude of different streaming services?
Yeah, from a controlled environment, the frequency can be managed, working directly with a publisher. But of course, it's quite a saturated marketplace, and you don't want to be dealing with a million publishers to achieve the same thing. So, we know it's difficult, and we're working with our various partners to sort of manage that frequency. But in a controlled environment, absolutely achievable. But it's a lot more difficult when it's out in the open, working with our supply side.
Yeah. Go on, Alice.
I think you also need to separate out, though, frequency and reach. They are two very, very different sort of, I suppose, measurements or tactics. I mean, frequency, I think, is, as Chris has said, has a problem within the more sort of open ecosystem when you go outside of walled gardens. But when it comes to reach, there's a lot of work that's going on there. If you think about what Samsung's doing, what LG's doing, what Yahoo's recently done with Samba to be able to bring that linear data in and help to actually sort of manage that incremental reach across other channels.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Go on, Alex.
Sorry, just to add an extra piece as well. I think we have a habit of running really fast as an industry, which is brilliant. Innovation's there and everywhere, but what we do is we leave a lot of things behind and on the table. So I think one of the sort of pieces that we're starting to see is people working closer with us. So when I say people sort of advertising agencies, I think one of the dangers we've got with the speed we move is buy and just hope. I think the more we can work together as essentially where the users are and what they're watching through to where the advertising budget starts, the closer that relationship and the more frequent we talk, the more we can understand this and the pain points there.
Yeah, okay.
I think we should also be careful that we don't conflate frequency with repetition.
Yeah.
And I think what's happened here is that there's a kind of digitally native problem that people are perhaps perceiving in television and in CTV doesn't necessarily exist, right? In some instances where you've got a scarcity of supply and you've overtraded, and to get deals where you're going to have to run repetitive ads or ads in sequential breaks, right? But for those of in the room who've done kind of linear television buying, there is no frequency management. You cannot effectively manage between the ads which are broadcast on ITV and the ads that are broadcast on Channel 4 and Sky and Discovery and all the way down the linear daisy chain. Right, what you do is you try and plan for it and optimize it and do your program select so as you're best managing for it. But it happens anyway because it's all publisher side managed. Right. What we see in some of the CTV environments is that because of that, scarcity of supply and abundance of demand, that just to get campaigns away, there's been some nefarious behaviours just to jam repetitive ads in back to back. That solves for itself over the course of time as supply grows. Yeah, but I don't think we should be too disheartened about the fact that it's an issue at the moment. Rather, what that demonstrates, there's an appetite for this stuff. Yeah, it's just that we need to find the right balance between being a bit greedy and killing the golden goose and solving for and taking out the opportunity that is presented to us.
So you're saying it's both it's a product of the environment at the moment, as well as a technological issue to a certain extent.
It's a structural issue that applies to TV in all its grandeur.
But
not just the CTV.
But isn't there also, though, if you go back to what you were saying, Reece, about the fact that there's convergence happening within the marketplace, whereby now it's not just about linear, it's not just about CTV, it's actually about dare I say, all the different devices. So frequency for me is less about the linear to CTV. Yeah. It's more about frequency across the cross-channel mix within digital, less about the traditional
and I think
linear. And I don't think we've solved for that. We don't have a solution for that.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're some way off, right? That utopia of where an agency or a brand can truly understand their holistic reach across all digital screens, including television. Okay, I think, Ben, you're flashing at me, but we've got 5-10 minutes for questions. Okay, good man. I've got a bunch of questions here that I'm going to put to the panellists, but I'd like to open it up to questions from the audience as well. Feel free just to raise your hand and shout if you've got anything you'd like to ask the panellists. Any questions from the audience? No? Going once, going twice. Excellent. Chap in a red T-shirt.
Hiya, Joe Kincham from Finecast. So I think CTV has been on a main agenda point for the last 5+ years at these events, and I think it's fair to say that we've believed the hype, and we continue to see the kind of the channel grow, both in interest from advertisers and the continued kind of migration of viewership from linear. And we've talked around a lot of the developments, I guess, at a technical nuance side, which is going on in the background in the industry, which is good. But I'd like to hear what the panel think the next kind of big development in CTV is to kind of go on, I guess, a next quantum leap. Like what we're talking about now is stuff that big TV brands are interested to get the quality out of their campaigns, but how are we going to bring on the raft of new advertisers into this space that are in other channels and maybe understand CTV, but CTV ecosystem, but want to dip their toe into it?
And I think that's a great question, right? And that's something we were going to discuss if we had more time, about the different types of advertisers that CTV really enables them to enter into. It kind of data and programmatic tech has democratized TV advertising. So it's no longer just about transitioning traditional linear advertisers. It's about opening up to social advertisers, digital advertisers that can use data and tech for the first time to get their ads onto the biggest screen. Reece, I know you and I have discussed this, or Alex, but this is a good point that I know you've got some valid points around, right?
I do have some valid points. So, and if you don't mind, I'll answer it in two phrases. First of which is there is appetite and there is a migration of the brands which were digitally native, D2C brands that specialised in buying performance-type media from the Facebooks and the Googles of this world, that are now migrating into television because we've democratised access, we've made it easier, and we're building products and a suite of products that are more akin to what they are familiar with from the digitally native platforms. So, testament to that is, we've run 250 new to ITV advertisers exclusively through Planet V since we launched ITVX in November of last year. Right, at any given point in time, we've got about 6 mattress in a box brands, a dozen recipe delivery services to your door. These are all digitally native brands that now have found a way into the CTV ecosystem. The one thing that I will counsel and I will call out and I will look to engage you with around how we ensure that pipeline continues is, let's not shit the bed here, right? And I mean that really emotionally and really passionately, because what concerns me around CTV is it is so hot right now, right? And it's growing so quickly that fools rush in, right? Bad actors into this ecosystem, right? And they will fuck it for all of us. Mm-hmm. Right, and this is a real passion point for me, because I've seen it happen in every other media channel that's become digitized. Bad actors get their claws in and they fuck it, right? And I really, really implore the buyers, right, and the advertisers and the people who represent budgets in the room to be really circumspect about your decision making as to where you're investing, right? Because things that are similar are not the same. And I saw a tweet the other day, not a Gubbins tweet, unbelievably, but maybe Gubbins and one of his other guys. It's AdTech Explained, who tweeted, "It would behoove." Fuck me, who says behoove? It would behoove. Oh, we know who says behoove. There we go.
No,
right.
not me. I can't even spell it.
It would behoove CTV publishers with less valuable inventory to pass content metadata. Giving buyers an additional vector for targeting reporting makes each opportunity more attractive. Now, in principle, I don't disagree with that, but if you're considering that CTV publisher as part of your plan, what the fuck are you buying? All right? Set some thresholds. right? Set some barriers to entry. If you are spending on CTV, if you want to invest in what will be a really rich platform for all of us, create some barriers to entry. Be circumspect in policing those, and don't let those bad actors fuck it up like they fucked up display, they're fucking up social, and they will fuck up the next thing. Right?
Agreed, Reece.
Alex, good catch.
Alex, before we wrap up, I know you was keen to jump in on that last one as well.
I actually wholeheartedly agree, but ironically, I also think data is going to be the next big piece, right? I say not the next, it's already there. It's how do we enable data in the right way, so it's not with the wrong actors, being utilised in the right way, not just to pass it for the sake of passing it, because someone might pay a slight bit more and take it somewhere else. And when I come back to having context as king and making sure everything's in the right space is the fact that SVOD and AVOD are in the same environment, bucketed under CTV. They are differing environments with a different intent and a different user type. So if you just throw all the data in and it becomes the data play, then we're all essentially going to lose. Whereas actually gatekeeping some of that and looking at how do we standardise that across the industry, I think is the right move. The second piece, I think, and it kind of goes exactly what Reece is saying, is formats. Formats are by far going to be the next big thing that comes in, but the danger of that is running too fast and trying to do every format under the sun. And we've seen the new TV, I can't remember what it's called, come into the ecosystem from guys at Pluto.
What? Seaflight?
No, you get free TV and you have this... Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You get given a free TV, but the trade-off is advertising.
Yeah, advertising all the time. Essentially, a billboard underneath, right? Yeah. I mean, there maybe is an audience for that, but realistically, is that the audience you want? So I think just because we can, we shouldn't. But at the same time, formats are going to be an exciting opportunity. So, bit both.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Alex. Alice, Chris, any last closing remarks?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it was a bit... We didn't discuss fast services. I thought we were going to talk about fast a little bit.
We wanted to try and figure out the definitions of fast, AVOD,
yeah, well, we definitely need another acronym, don't we?
No, I really wanted to ask how agencies, right, think about CTV. Do they plan it like digital?
I think Ben's going to kill you there, guys.
We are. Thank you very much for joining, everyone. Thank you. And thank you to the panellists.
Thank you very much. Never disappointing, always a fantastic panel. We look forward to seeing you again next year, chapter and update.